Roll call of the City Council for the meeting of Wednesday, June 19th, 2013 at 7:30 p.m. Mr. Winarski, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Evans, Mr. Rankutsa, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Witherspoon. All please rise for a moment of silent meditation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Normally this is Curtis's job tonight. It looks like I'll be mine. No problem. Just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and God bless everyone. Please keep all of us here, up here on stage, as well as in the audience, in their prayers, as well as the whole city of Erie. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A motion to accept the minutes of the meeting from June 5th and the bills for payment on June 21st and June 28th. Mr. Brennan, Mr. Evans, Mr. Kutso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski. We do have some people here for repository sales, Mr. President. Mr. Walter Smith.
Good evening, Mr. Smith. If you please state your name and
Your address.
My name is Walter
Address.
Smith, and
Your address? Give me your address.
my address is 553 East 11th.
This is pictures of what he wants to buy.
please proceed and
Okay.
explain the property you're wishing to obtain.
Okay, the property is that we're interested in is at 549 East 11th. We moved in the area a couple years ago. The lot was covered with high grass, front and back. And in the back towards the alley, people use it as a dumping ground. Nevertheless, we attempt to keep it clean. You know, my wife and I, we pick up paper or garbage, whatever is in the lot. And no matter how many times we do it, the debris seems to come right back. See, y'all have to excuse me. The only time I don't get nervous is when I'm in church.
Me too.
So, if the council would vote that would give us consent to ownership of this property, we would maintain the property, clean it up. We would remove the snow in the winter, and I would like to. It's right next to my home, so you know this means a lot to me. Because when I look out my window, I don't want to see dirt or garbage. I want to see flowers, or I want to see a garden. I want to be able to look out, see my grandkids playing. So I hope y'all vote yes for this property.
Mr. President, if I could,
Certainly.
Mr. Smith, so the property's next to your at 553 East 11th, and you're going to buy 549?
Yes.
And you will clean it up, you've said you'd clean up, I saw the pictures. Is there anything you'll be using it for, just for gardening, or will you be using it for a driveway or anything like that?
I want to extend my yard
Okay,
and extend my garden. I want to have a bigger garden.
okay, so you won't be building anything on it, or parking on it or anything? Okay, very good, thank you, we appreciate your efforts to clean that up.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Colvin?
Yeah. Hey, Jim.
Good evening, folks.
Good evening. Good evening.
If you would, state your name, where you live, and what property you're looking to acquire.
My name is Eddie Colvin, and this is my wife, Aileen Colvin, and we live at 2058 East 20th Street, across from 2057. We live across the street from that. And I have pictures of it if you want to see it, what it looks like. It is a complete mess. And I'd like to get that because it's something like a jungle. A lot of animals over there. We got skunk, we got groundhog, we got rabbits, and everything that stays over there. So we could get that, get it cleared up. We would probably use it for a parking area, maybe a little recreation, that would work. It's a lot of work to be done to get it cleared.
Oh, I'm hogging the picture, sorry. Who's the fence belong to? Is that on the property that you're purchasing? Yes. The fence? And you're going to keep the fence, or are you going to get rid of the fence?
Well, we're going to keep it, right?
Yeah, we probably.
Yeah, we're going to keep it. Yeah.
It looks all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks all right. And this is across the street from your
Right across
home?
the street. You look, it's on the south side. We on the north side. It's on the south side of the street.
Okay.
It's fenced in partial, but somehow I think the weather, the wind or something, tore part of the fence down. But you see the huge logs, and I don't know how
Right.
we're going to get them out. That's a problem.
Yeah, and have somebody come and cut them up and haul them out for you.
Well, that would work. Would
Yeah.
appreciate it.
I'd do it, but I don't think I know how. It's under
It's under, yeah. Mr. President.
Sir.
So it's just, again, just similar to the previous, want to clean up the lot.
Right.
Beautify the neighborhood, the area.
Right.
You mentioned possibly about a possible parking or driveway, I mean?
Right. Well, it's some asphalt there, it's really, but it needs cleaning off.
Okay, so it may already be on the books as a parking
Right,
area?
right.
Or driveway? Okay, so I would check that out, too. But, okay, so you're not planning on building any other
no.
buildings or anything on
No, we
it?
got-
Beautify, take over, yeah, you got enough to that to deal with, right?
We don't need it.
Yes, sir. Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, folks. Any other repositories, Jim, or that?
I don't think so, just ask.
Any other repositories? Any other repository sales tonight? Hearing none, just so you folks know, that is not voted on tonight. That'll be voted on at our next meeting in July, but to be perfectly honest with you, these things tend to go through, and I thank you for taking pride in the neighborhoods you live in. Thank you.
Okay, as we move to citizens to be heard, Amy Comparatori.
Good evening, Council. My name's Amy Compertor, and I live at 913 State Street, apartment 903, in the city of Erie. I'm here on behalf of quite many people, elderly and disabled, and they will speak for themselves as well tonight, God willing. I'm here to present petitions against the form of what has happened with the EMTA bus system. The buses have not been the same since they have rerouted themselves. In fact, it took 2 days from June 8th, which was supposedly the day that all the buses formally changed over. Let's not forget that they also, on June 5th, put up those nice big signs and covered the only schedules that they had listed. So if you did not have a schedule amongst yourself, then you were kind of, well, left out without something to do other than call them, which they were totally busy between June 5th and June 10th. I tried calling them myself on quite a few occasions. They were not updated until June 10th. On their website. Up until that point, they were using the March 2 schedule on their web. It seems that if you were going to go and actually do a remanifestation of the bus routes, that you would have things in place. And being an executive director and having executives amongst your agency, that there would be much better planning than what happened here. There's also in today's paper, and I want to draw your attention to this article, if I may, and I'll submit it after I read it here, the Erie Downtown Streetscapes Master Plan of July 15, 2010, made the change inevitable and foreseeable. Page 28 of the Streetscapes Master Plan shows what happens when buses stop for passengers. Both the one traffic lane and the bicycle lane are blocked, causing congestion in that direction. Again, it's inevitable and foreseeable. So this action of congestion immediately happening upon the city is not an immediate happening. There has been no knowledge of this, and you cannot deny that for 3 years. I'd like to also submit this into evidence to you as well. That study that they are referring to, and I'd like to submit that study into evidence, is here for you as well. That is the study that they refer to. There are 2 other things that you may have already, which is Ms. Parmenter's traffic report and the downtown public transportation study, because I got them from the clerk's office, so I hope council has them. If not, I'd put those into evidence as well. In Ms. Parameter's report, and the cute part is that some of these pictures were taken from the aspect of a Mercedes-Benz, which really kind of just really puts us in an interesting focus, even more so. Bus traffic on State Street adds to the already congested flow on State Street because of the bump outs and local truck delivery. That is the only sentence, and that's on the bottom of page 3 of this report, that mentions bus traffic, period. I've had some graduate work in my lifetime myself. If I'm going to press a point with a report, I want that word flooded through that report. One thing that I would like to point out is at the end of her report. The traffic engineer recommends that EMTA first engage in a public information campaign, approximately 2 weeks, educating their riders of the change before actual implementation. There was no education here. There was advertising, but advertising is not the same as education. It's one thing to say advertise Gannon University, and it's another to go and learn there. So I want to associate the difference in the actions there. It also says that the alteration does not burden EMTA because the change would provide a more efficient traffic pattern for its bus fleet. Excuse me 1 minute and I'll wrap up. I apologize.
How about 30 seconds, and I'll be fair. Thank you.
Shifting the stops only a half a block from State, and it says here in the report a half a block, it's actually a block, from State to French or French to State. No matter which way you put that, that's a block, sirs. So there are problems within the reports and within the studies themselves. If you take a look at them, and I'll submit those into evidence, and I hope you all have a great day, and thank you for allowing me time up here.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Council. My name's Willie McAdore. I stay at 448 East 15th Street. I think I want to have two things tonight. First of all, MTA. I've been all over this country. In every city I ever been in, when was there never a bus route on the main street that they can go from north, south, east, and west? Everything's come to that point. Now, the bus company didn't ask for this. This was the mayor's idea. What is he thinking? We done did 2 or 3 things over the last 10 years with State Street. We put all that walkway, that middle thing that we had in there, for years we had down there, we couldn't have no coming down through there. That was a terrible idea. Then he come up with them curbs. You can't hardly turn a cone out there without running over top of the curb. That was a bad idea. Now he went and told the bus company not to send the buses downtown. What about all these old folks we have in this city? They can't get around. Once they get off there on that wheelchair, they can't get around and go nowhere. And this wasn't something that the bus company asked for. He did this on his own, asked them to do it. Did anybody ever ask him why? Is that for the motorcycle thing coming downtown? What is we doing? We're not thinking about the citizens in the community. We have people that can't barely get around, then they got to walk 2 more blocks out of the way to catch a bus. That's asinine. That's crazy. And then now you're talking about the meters downtown going up to 10 o'clock. Ain't nothing open but balls after 5. You're bleeding the community, and you're really hurting old folks more so than anybody else. Now, my other thing is this. Now, I see you got the budget in there that y'all got that money from to come in the city every year. I noticed in there you give St. Martin $40,000. You get a Centers $15,000. Understand something. We're going back to this again. We had a deal with the federal government back in the 60s that the NATO centers in those areas would dictate monies that's being distributed in their area. That's not the case anymore. You're getting Booker T 15, you're getting St. Martin 40. Why? They in Central City NATO 1. And the NATO means Neighborhood Action Team Organization. That was stipulated how you get basically the money that you're getting. And you're only getting the centers like $15,000. And you say in the contracts when you send it down every year from the indigenous community. What do that mean? Poor folks. But when the money comes through, you give them less than you give anybody. You give them less money than you do anybody in the community. I don't hear nobody complaining about that. You know, and I hope what Mr. Jones suggested, that we do something for the children this summer. It's a Band-Aid, but bring the Band-Aid on. The Band-Aid is better than nothing at this point in time. And I'm quite sure the city know that them children out there in the street ain't got no money and no way to get it other than what they're doing. Then you complain about them sticking folks up, going in people's houses, burglarizing. I'm sorry, just I forgot again.
It's me, McAdory. I call you.
Gave him a pre-5-minute warning.
President gonna give you some more time. 30 seconds.
Yeah, that was cute.
At least this time he did the answer.
But seriously, on the serious side, we got to start thinking about this community, the people's in the community. You know, and like I told y'all 1,000 times, y'all up there representing these people. You ain't representing that man upstairs, you represent these people out here. You're supposed to look out for their welfare. What's best for the community? And that's not happening. We got to have some new directions or something. Think about the people in the community, y'all. And I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to leave. We don't have no more Mario Bagnonis. Mario took care of the citizens in this community. Whatever problems that they was having, he took care of those problems up there. And I wish we get back to that some kind of way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAdory. Mr. McDonald, I just want you to know we do have a public hearing at 8 o'clock, but we're going to let you get yours in.
I appreciate excuse me. I appreciate that.
No
Mr.
problem at all.
President.
I don't want to, in case you hear something.
You know, I have to echo on what Mr. McAdory was talking about. Now, you got 3 centers. Have nothing been done to them at least 20 years. Here up at St. Martin, I don't know. You're really keeping them up. Here, those people, the executive directors, you don't allow them down here? Are they allowed to come down and talk to you people? Because they act like they're afraid. Look, if they're not trying to do something to improve those organizations, then they don't have no business being directors of them. They don't seem to be concerned about those centers. Mr. McAdory and I raised more cane down here, and we're not over those centers, but we see what's going on. Boy, we got some boys in the woodpile, and that's a shame. We're neglecting our kids. And like I told you before, we're not going to let you give those centers to those foreigners. It will never happen. Hell will break loose out here before that happened. We worked hard for those centers. Now you took the money and you sent it to St. Martin. Somebody over there was stealing. You didn't cut their funds off. What's going on? What y'all got against our kids? We're speaking up for our kids. Not just the kids of color. We're speaking up for the white ones too. But the black kids are the ones that are suffering. Y'all don't want to do nothing for them. They should be able to enjoy something. Don't even want to give them no summer jobs. Used to give them summer jobs. This year, money that's come in here, the housing authority getting $200,000. And a couple of times, I looked through it, it's over, they're getting over $250,000. Them centers, they're doing good if they get 30 or 40,000 together. Y'all got to do better than this. Y'all just got to do better than this. And then, when you sign these contracts with these construction companies, I don't see a black face out there. Don't y'all think that we need some money too? Those men have families, they want to buy things for their kids. but you'll keep them jails cleaned up and built up for them. That's bad. What you gonna tell God when he come? They didn't need nothing. They need the same thing you need, even more, because they're not getting a thing now. They're not getting anything. You're getting big paychecks. I don't mean from up there, from the city. You're getting some money somewhere. You're getting some money under the table or somewhere else. You wouldn't be up there. Everybody else.
Where's yours? I didn't get mine.
I know. You don't take this here for that little money they pay you $5,000 or $10,000. The money's coming from somewhere. You know it and I know it. But let me tell you one thing. When God come on the scene, you're gonna say, "Why me?" And He's gonna say, "Why not you?" Do y'all believe in God? Do you believe in fairness? Do you believe in the right thing? That's what I want to know.
Yes, sir.
Don't you want the right thing for your family?
Yes, sir.
Well, we want the right thing for ours. But you don't want to do the right thing. When you took our time, that wasn't right. It wasn't right. I don't give a damn how you look at it. It wasn't right. You didn't do it right. You want us to think that you're honorable people. There was no honor in that. There was no honor in doing that. You should have talked to us. We're grown men. We're old men, but we're grown men. Just because we old, we ain't senile and we ain't crazy. Because if we were, we wouldn't come down here. We come down here, we're not afraid of y'all. You can't do nothing to us. We can't die but one time. You can kill me anytime, because you can't bring me back and keep killing me. I don't want to die, but we have people dying in foreign countries. They ain't got nothing against them people, but the government will say, "We're sending you over there," and they'll go and risk their lives.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Give me a second now.
I got a full house tonight, my friend,
But
and
they're interested in what I got to say because I got something to say.
please, please, please.
I thank you for your time, then.
Thank you,
But I
sir.
want you to consider about stacking them 5 minutes you took from us on top of these few minutes you're giving us now. I want you to consider that.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
It will be fair if you did it.
Oh, yeah, we have to go to the study. No.
No. We're supposed to have a public hearing here at 8 o'clock. It's now 8:05. We're waiting on a stenographer to... We don't need one. Oh, we don't need one for this? Oh, okay. So at this point, we're going to ask Mr. Mark Kwiatkowski to step forward and present the city's case here.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of council. I'm just going to sum up a little bit the background of the cable TV ordinance and a few highlights of the new ordinance, if you don't mind. FCC regulations state that a municipality may collect up to 5% of the gross revenue generated by a cable franchise operator from the sale of cable services in exchange for the use of the municipality's right-of-ways. This does not include internet, phone, or any other services offered by the company. It has nothing to do with content or the setting of subscriber fees. The old agreement, which was negotiated with Time Warner's predecessor, was signed in 1991 and expired in 2006. We have continued to operate under this agreement despite its expiration.
Mr. Kwiatkowski, pull your mic closer so we can hear you better. Thank you.
Under the current agreement, the city collects approximately $1 million per year in franchise fees, of which 20% or approximately $200,000 goes directly to cable access television, which is Channel 2. The city has joined the effort of the Erie Area Council of Governments, along with 7 other municipalities, to hire the Cohen Law Group, which is a firm from Pittsburgh, a law firm that specializes in cable and telecommunications matters. to negotiate a new contract with Time Warner for each of the municipalities. The municipalities saved a considerable amount of money by combining together and reducing the fee that the city normally would have paid. The negotiation process began with a press conference at the Erie County Courthouse on February 11th, 2011. A hearing was held March 2nd, 2011, here in council chambers to solicit input from the public on the negotiations. The process has taken nearly 2.5 years to complete, and as in any negotiation, this agreement is a compromise between the municipalities and the vendor. A copy of the proposed ordinance has been on display for public viewing, and we are here today to receive public comment on the negotiated agreement. A few highlights of the new agreement from the old. The new agreement has an itemized list of 19 revenue sources defining gross revenues. For example, in the old agreement, the amount paid to the city in franchise fees was subtracted prior to calculating the company's gross revenue. In the new agreement, this is not the case, resulting in additional revenue to the city. The old ordinance did not have a detailed description of gross revenue, so it was subject to interpretation. Provisions for independent audits of Time Warner records to determine whether franchise fees are accurate. It also ensures that when Time Warner bundles cable, internet, and phone services into a single package, the city will still receive our fair share of franchise fees for cable services despite the discontinued or the discounted pricing of bundled services. That's very important, as everyone knows, since everything is bundled now. They can't only discount the cable services, cable TV, and reduce the franchise fee, attribute all the all the discount to cable TV. It also establishes a set of comprehensive and quantifiable customer service standards. For example, there's a 4-hour appointment window for service calls, as an example. It maintains free services to community facilities such as municipal buildings, police and fire, schools, and libraries, as the old agreement did. Even though Time Warner in most new agreements has restricted those more severely, we kept what was in the old agreement. There are specific technical requirements to ensure the system meets or exceeds the technical performance standards of the Federal Communications Commission and provides services comparable to those offered at Time Warner's other cable systems, such as in eastern Ohio, where our region is based. In the new agreement, the full 5% franchise fee would be paid to the city by Time Warner. Funding for cable access TV will be provided directly by the city in accordance with the plan to be negotiated between CAT TV, the city administration, and city council. We have asked Cable Access TV to submit a plan to us for funding. We have not received it yet. We're still awaiting it. And the new agreement will also be in effect for a period of 10 years, should it be adopted. Thank you.
Any questions, Council, for Mr. Kwiatkowski?
Chris,
Yes, sir.
are you telling us that the cable CAT TV will not lose their funding, that money is available, they just have to ask for it in some way, whether it's proposal to the city? So there aren't, because I got a lot of calls and a couple of letters saying that we are cutting their money out, cutting their funding. That is not true?
That is not the case. Funding will be up to the elected officials, just as it should be. The money belongs to the municipality. The 5% belongs to the municipality. If council so chooses to fund cable access television, that is their prerogative.
Okay, so in other words, we may ask them to submit a proposal, tell us what you're doing, and they submit it, it'll be up to us to give it to them, or cut it out. That's correct?
or you could increase it.
Or increase it? Okay. Just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Any other questions?
Sure.
Were there any, in the negotiations, was there any talk of negotiating updated equipment for the city or for any of Cat TV or any of those people that use the service?
Yes, there was. And it was decided in conjunction with, in discussions with the mayor and with city council and a couple briefings that I had with city council, that they were not truly grants as they were advertised. What they would actually do would loan the money, and then every subscriber would have another line item on their bill to pay a fee that would pay off those loans. Cable Access TV asked for, if I remember correctly, like $600,000 worth of equipment. And the city for Channel 9 asked for approximately $70,000 worth of equipment. But it was decided that, subscriber fees are high enough and we would not ask for that money.
And then my other question was, you said there are, how many, 7 other municipalities?
Yes, sir.
Now, how would this agreement work? All 7 have to agree to it, basically, right?
Yes. There's one master agreement that they're all very similar, and then there is a few tweaks here and there for individual municipalities.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we're going to go with public comment regarding this issue. We're not going in any order for or against. It's just going to be public comment. You're more than welcome to step to the mic. Please just state your name and address, and good evening.
Al Richardson, 27 Niagara Pier, Erie 16507. I'm come with my community access television hat on today. I moved to Erie in 1975, lived in the city ever since. I've been a cable TV subscriber since cable first was installed. And in the 80s, when they first had made public access television available, I got involved and have been a producer and supporter over the many years. Back in the 80s, we had a sort of an informal group of volunteers who were using the cable, who were producing shows on Channel 2 that we called by the acronym CAPE, which was Community Access People of Erie. Over 15 years ago, I was a co-founder of the City of Erie Cable TV Access Corporation, which was put into place to replace a dysfunctional public access authority. On my monthly cable bill from Time Warner, I pay about $5 a month in franchise fee, 1/5 of which is designated for public access television. So that's, I pay about $12 a year for cable, for public access television. I have a statement which I'll give you a copy of with many arguments for continuing full funding for community access television. I'd like to, I won't read it all to you because you can read it yourself. I encourage you to do that, but I will read one part of it. CAT is a community asset that contributes to the quality of life and positive self-image in Erie. That's why the expired agreement stipulated that 1/5 of the franchise fee paid by cable subscribers is designated for providing public access facilities and programming. In truth, the public access portion of the franchise fee does not come from either city tax revenues or Time Warner income. It's added to the bill that cable subscribers pay and passed on by Time Warner Cable to the city and then by the city to CAT. Cable subscribers are entitled to receive the benefits of the services they are paying for. I think the way to assure that that continues, the best way, the preferred way, would be to amend the new franchise to include the wording from the now expired agreement that calls for 1/5 of the franchise fee to go directly to community access television. That's the preferred way to do it. I suppose there are other ways that that doesn't happen. In fact, I have called my statement of a hearing on the mayor's budget proposal, because in the end, that's what it will be. And all of my arguments will be equally applicable when you discuss budget details, city budget details. So I have copies. I had one for Jim Clem. I see he's left. But thank you. Yes, that's 8 altogether.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Hello. My name is Thasia Ann. I live at 1450 West 35th Street in Erie, Pennsylvania. In 1991, I joined Cable Access. Mr. Richardson did a great job of covering the business end. I want to cover the more personal end. I worked with on many successful productions, and I worked with the late Matthew Frazzini. He started as a child with his friends running around with a Super 8 camera, and they would videotape their wrestling and their playing war games and that. And then Matthew would go and cut it apart with scissors and tape it back together and run it on a projector. And when he heard about Cable Access when he was a teenager, he was out of his mind that he could just pay that small fee and actually have access to the editing equipment and so on. I was with him the first time he found a CD of Star Trek music without the talking, because he used to make pretend Star Treks and have to tape it off the TV and then cut out the talking and try to make the music work with all those little sporadic pieces. He produced a video in 1991 that in 1993 won a national award called Lazarus the Legend. And he did it through Cable Access with all the members participating, different pieces of Erie all over. They did the scene in Washington Park, they did a scene on the dock, so it was all done. In 1993, he won the national award from Hometown Video Award of Excellence for a drama. One of the reasons Matthew believes so highly, and I speak in behalf of Matthew, he is deceased. One of the reasons Matthew believes so much in Cat TV is that making those movies when he was a kid, that kept him and his friends busy doing something productive and not having time on their hands to do things that they shouldn't do. And gentlemen, earlier we're talking about the youth of Erie. We need some positive things for them to do. We've always wondered why we didn't have some kind of organization where we could take these at-risk youth and put them through the program at Cat TV and get them interested in something that could be a career in the future. So I would love to see some classes or something like that get going. It would help those kids be employable down the road. And there has been some comparisons by other people that, well, nowadays we have YouTube, and I just want to quickly explain why YouTube is nothing in compared to having cable access. First of all, you can't let a 9-year-old on YouTube unattended because there's no telling what he could stumble on. At Cat TV, he's given a mentor, he's taught by professionals. He has the access, or she has the access to use professional editing equipment and then see their program aired on a television station that they can go home and watch. There is no comparison to the stuff that you see on YouTube. And the average child can't, the average Erie child that we're talking about here, can't afford a camera. And, you know, the stuff that goes along with it to then be able to put it onto YouTube. So I just want to say I thank Erie that we've had cable access. It is a gem. It is an undiscovered gem for so many people in this area. I encourage you, go over there, take a look at what they do, look at some of the programs that they have available. Churches can use this, schools can use this, you know, a lot of different aspects that aren't talked about. And I thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kurt Solomon, and I sent an email to you all. I don't know if you had a chance. But, you know, I'm a citizen of Erie. I've been a producing member at CAT TV for over 7 years, and I really use it as an opportunity to serve our nonprofits. I help them tell their stories. They can't afford, you know, high-priced videographers coming in, so we help them tell their stories, and broadcasting it on cable access allows them to reach people that they normally wouldn't. For instance, you know, the Jefferson Society, what they're doing with the War of 1812, we've done their lectures. Recently, the parade, the jazz and arts festival is done at no charge to Erie. It's part of the services that, you know, the community gets. Recently, there was a study completed called Culture Spark, and it was one of those studies that we always hire an outside consultant to come in and tell us what we already know, but basically, you know, it says that culture and art is important, and we shouldn't neglect it and just take it for granted. And what cable access does is really help develop, for what I see, you know, over 20 to 30 producers here that use cable access like you would a public library. We can check out a camera, we can get more training, and we can help our churches, our community, you know, tell our stories of culture, whether it's Latino culture or religious, the underground. I mean, you know, sometimes there's stuff on there that people may not totally agree with. I mean, we've seen some stuff about cops acting badly, all right? However, that is the minority, and I think if you really look at this, the calls that come in as far as complaints, there aren't any. But the idea, again, getting back to this idea that CAT is an incubator for this creative network. It's a place for training of young people, of old people, and it's a way to share our culture, and it's very important. And it's something, I think if it becomes a budget line item, all right, it becomes political, all right? And every year, you're going to have to go through this. What concerns me is you waited 5 years, okay, to negotiate a new contract, okay? What was going on for 5 years? Cable access was able to continue because they had that money coming directly to them. And, you know, if you look at the salaries of the people that work there, they're well under the $68,000 that the average person working for the city gets. All right? So they've been running very effectively. There's 3 people that work very hard and they're committed to serving the public. And I just want you to consider CAT TV as a community resource for the creative workforce and to extend our culture and to tell the story of Erie to other places. Because the videos and stuff that gets produced at CAT TV also goes on to the internet. And it tells the story of Erie. Okay? So I just don't want it to become a political thing because it's taken up a lot of our time to come here tonight and plead our case. And to do that every year, it takes away what's best for Erie. What's really best for Erie is that you agree that CAT TV is a great asset and it should continue. And that's the only thing. I know that you say that, hey, you're going to continue on with it. And I appreciate that. We're all in this together. I don't want this like I'm on this side and you're on this side. I think it would be best for Erie for the CAT TV issue to remain non-political, and that it stay out of the budget, and that the 1% that the cable subscribers are entitled to goes to a service that they enjoy. Then it's not a political issue. So, again, I want to thank everybody that's here tonight. They've all learned that they love this city and they love our diversity, and that CAT TV is a way to share that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Brett Fallon, and I'm at 2074 Burnwood Drive in Erie, Pennsylvania. And I typically don't get up to speak often, so this means a lot to me to do this. I'm most seen as a dancer, and when I'm walking the streets of Erie, quite recently, for example, I benefit from CAT TV just because people said to me, 3 or 4 people a day will say to me, I saw you on TV, and that was because of CAT TV. And not just personally why I benefit from CAT TV, but as an entertainment director, and being able to provide quality entertainment for those who might not able to receive that kind of entertainment otherwise. An example of this is my father was in the hospital for the Perry 200 parade, and I was able to turn on the television set for him on CAT TV Channel 2, and he got to see not just me perform in the parade with the over 100 people in my performance group, but he got to see the full community of Erie and how they can benefit a community in services that they provide. For example, he's a veteran. He got to see the veterans walking down the street. And that kind of programming can't be provided in any other outlet. My goal as an entertainment director is to make sure that entertainment is provided to people who most likely wouldn't receive it. So hitting demographics that CAT TV can hit is very important to me, because as any type of entertainer, we can't hit people in hospital beds or in their homes. So also too, to empower community voices and visions, it truly defines the mission statement of CAT TV and Erie's cable access television. And this mission is to make sure that it reaches its full potential. Not as individuals, but also organizations and nonprofits. I sit on different boards and committees. And when funding is low for marketing and promotions, quite quickly, CAT TV comes up and how we promote a message. For example, public service announcements have gone out on my behalf trying to raise awareness for cystic fibrosis and the MS Society, so that people can have awareness of what kind of causes are out there in the community on a very quick and easy way. So I really am grateful for CAT TV to have a full, wonderful studio that you would not be able to find anywhere else, even in a large city like New York City that I work in. So this type of environment is very crucial to just to continue to spread messages of awareness of what Erie does, and to provide a voice of uniqueness of individuals too. So beyond just a typical newscast. So anything anybody has to say. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I'm Louis Prest. I live at 617 West 4th Street. I'm also a producer at CAT TV. It's been a while since I regularly attended council meetings. At that time, it was Mr. Bagnoni, Mr. Brabender, Mr. Casey, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Maris, former Mayor Savacchio, previous Mayor Savacchio. You council, this council, comports itself with a lot more dignity than they did in those times. And I appreciate it. It makes us all look good. You can call this city revenue if you want, but this is not tax dollars. This is not taxpayer dollars. This is Time Warner private sector dollars, a small portion of which was always intended to be given to the citizens so that they could have a voice in our broadcast community. And we're getting more bang for our tiny little buck than almost any other agency. We provide education, information, promote local talent, give hours of airtime to local nonprofits that they can't get anywhere else, to help them help the Erie community. We don't have an advertising budget. A lot of people still don't know that we broadcast live via the internet. I've gotten emails from people down south, out west, who say they saw Celebrate Erie. They saw Roar on the Shore, and they're sorry they missed it, and they came next year. We're actually providing a tourism aspect for Erie. It's also worth noting that every media outlet in this town has come to our aid. The TV stations, the radio, the newspaper have all been very kind to us because they believe in what we're doing. We promote Erie, to Erie, for Erie, and beyond Erie, all on a shoestring budget. Don't put us on this slippery slope where we have to come back year after year making budget requests. Because 10 years from now, most of you may not be here, and the ones that replace you will say, well, this station has been failing for years due to budget cuts, let's just close it. I sat in these chambers 2 weeks ago when speakers were here, as they were tonight, talking about the bus routes. Many of you seemed sympathetic, but said there was nothing you could do. Tonight, there is something you can do. Mr. Bagnoni used to be fond of saying, the mayor proposes and council disposes. I hope you'll do that tonight. You have all the power here. Table this approval of this new agreement, guarantee our small private sector funds, and guarantee our citizens a right to a voice in our broadcast community as was originally intended. Let that be this council's legacy, that you took a stand for the citizens of Erie, public access, and free speech. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of Council, my name is Lisa Austin, 1262 West 9th, and I'm also greeting my fellow residents of Erie. I am a beneficiary of CAT TV and have been for many years. I'm a member of the group. I want to say that as a person who moved here and got very involved with Neighborhood Watch and other preservation, transportation, and economic development, that all of these activities have been supported by CAT TV. CAT TV allowed me to learn how to use equipment and interview people who loved the Villa Chapel, who had a passion for saving that building, and the recording that were edited at CAT TV are currently still on the Villa Chapel website. I want to say also that in terms of preservation, they have interviewed a number of times different people involved in the Preservation Erie project. They've also been instrumental in interviewing the people that are now the leaders of All Aboard Erie, which is trying to improve bus and train transit here in the city and in the region. And also in terms of economic development, many of you are familiar with the group that I helped to start, Innovation Erie. And this group has been able in 4 years to help 4 new businesses form with people from the region. But all of this was layered in with some exposure through what is really a community bulletin board, our CAT TV. And I want to point out that as somebody who is a novice politician who went through a campaign, that CAT TV was the only place in town that gave a consistent airing to the different views that the candidates brought. They offered every single candidate an opportunity to go and have their 10 minutes of conversation or information that they wanted to share with the community. I think CAT TV is an amazing asset. It's well worth the price, and we're not even paying for it. It's all of us, including myself, a cable subscriber, that are paying for it. I plead with you to keep the 1% going to CAT TV. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of City Council, my name is Bob Lechner. I'm Executive Director for Cable Access TV at 142 West 12th Street. Thank you for holding the cable hearing tonight, and thanks to everybody that's come out to support us. I know that there are supporters here for a lot of good reasons. I'm going to talk about 3, and then a few things that I know that some of you have responded to letters with some of your concerns about the new agreement. First, a little bit about us. We're a free speech organization. We're aided by members and volunteers to maintain the cable casting resource called Public Access TV. We have unique programming. It's created by and for a diverse audience. In many cases, they're members of the minority community without other free access to the media. It's true that our unique programming often only has a niche audience for an occasional show, but that's often a very devoted following. It's shut-in that can only enjoy church service through CAT TV, or would otherwise have to use the lift to get there. It's seniors able to share informational programs that are of interest to everybody. It's musical programs to highlight talent in our area, and sometimes it's just personal or heartfelt messages that people feel that they should have a place to present them. We also do a good bit of outreach into the community, and you know, it isn't always cops on the street that prevent crime. Sometimes it's keeping kids off the street, it's giving groups a voice so they can be heard before there's a pressure cooker situation out there that people overreact to. Just today, very coincidental, but we had a church group come through our organization. They took a hands-on tour over an hour, got to see the gear, touch it, enjoy playing around a little bit and see what they could do with the wonder of TV. They'll have adult sponsors soon, and they'll go through our training, and they'll be able to make programming. That's the kind of social program that can make a difference in Erie. Second, along with being a platform for citizens, we're a significant educational organization. We teach TV production, lighting, camera work, editing, sound, field camera. We do this at a level geared for almost anybody. We help youngsters, oldsters, people with a limited command of English, people afraid of technology. Everybody gets a chance to make a program at CAT TV. It's much more than about shooting a cell phone video and putting it on YouTube or posting it on Facebook. It's about learning television production and being able to produce something of quality. I know you've received a lot of letters of support. These aren't anywhere near the number that you may receive, but just wanted to present copies if I might. I'll mention this one from House of Representatives, signed by Harkins, Pizarro, Fabrizio, in full support of what we do. I was surprised in going through our files recently. We've got literally, in the 15 years we've been in operation, literally a half a dozen complaints about anything. For a TV station that's been on 24/7, that covers events, pulls a truck up onto people's property and runs cables. We've had a half a dozen complaints about anything in our operation. We stay on task because we have well-written bylaws. We've always followed the city. The mission is set forth in our responsibility to the city to be a public access organization for the benefit of the citizens of Erie. Things have been very tight in the past. Who's to say we couldn't have come before council and asked for more money than the franchise fee allowed previously? We never did. There were times when I'm sure that my predecessors would have wanted to do that, but we never asked for more money than what was there, even though it wasn't always a lot. We've always worked within our means, and we don't get any multi-thousand-dollar performance bonuses at our nonprofit either. Everything we do goes back into responsibly running our organization, and we love doing it. You probably realize there have been a couple of major films that have been produced in this area. There's several that have been shot in Pittsburgh. We're currently working with organizations like North Coast Film Producers and the Producers Club and others to promote filmmaking in the city. We're working with other people in the area who want to bring film jobs to the North Coast. We work with individuals who want to produce films and do animation work and advertising work. What we do has a specific economic impact for Erie. Third, we promote Erie. We promote dozens of area nonprofits. I won't go into all this part of my speech because other people have mentioned it before. But in the past 3 years, we've supported over 44 nonprofits, produce their messages to get the word out, to do fundraising, so that you guys don't have to support them to the extent that you would, were they not successful in their fundraising. They would be coming to you for more help. I do want to address some things that you've said in response to me and to our members. I've seen some of your letters in response to letters from our supporters. Some of you have been concerned about transparency and accountability. We were given the authority to operate by city ordinance. We're continually aware that that could be changed at any time by council. It's nothing set in stone. Doing business as Community Access TV, we've been operating responsibly over the past 15 years. The mayor appoints a voting trustee to our board. We have 3 members of our board that are members of CAT TV. In other words, they're citizens of the community who use our services. They help make sure that our board knows what CAT TV should be doing for the community. We're carefully audited every year. We pass with flying colors. Our 990 tax forms are available on the internet or to anybody who asks. Any of you can attend any one of our meetings at any time. We're completely open. So people that use CAT TV, and among those 3 voting members of our board, know that they have a real voice in the community through CAT TV, and they don't want to lose that. Some of you have taken the position that CAT's been receiving money that really belongs to the city, but that portion of the franchise fee has always been intended for public access. Even when there was no public access from 92 to 96, the mayor shut it down. The city used to run it. Something upset the mayor at that time. They shut down public access. The money continued to accrue, and it was used for public access once it was reinstituted with CAT TV. So that funding had never been used for anything but public access. So cable TV subscribers are paying a percent of their cable bill as a fee for service. They're paying for Channel 2. It's required to be non-commercial. We can't run advertising. It's a public access channel that covers city events, keeps people informed, provides spiritual messages. By taking those funds from us that were intended to be directly available, predictably, you reduce us to an uncertainty. Will we have to eliminate 1 or 2 of our 3 employees at CAT TV? What will that mean? Certainly we couldn't cover Celebrate Erie. We couldn't cover Roar on the Shore, Blues or Jazz Festival. There's no way. Sorry, City Mission, we can't commit to doing Knockout Homelessness next year. We're not sure what our funds are going to be. Perry 200, well, maybe somebody has a camera. They can make a DVD for you. Well, members want to pay an annual membership. It's not major, but there is a membership fee to be part of CAT TV. Well, they want to pay an annual membership if you've decided that we have to find money elsewhere, and the money isn't there to keep the doors open for a full year. City has a valuable facility in CAT TV. Why jeopardize that stability by requiring us to come back year after year and justify the few dollars we receive? You might have us incur further costs, such as having a fundraising position, maybe paying somebody $30,000 or more to raise funds for us, in hopes that that could happen. We could see turnover in our staff because they can't expect their jobs to be available if they're not sure about funding. The staff that you want to have the technical expertise and responsibility to take your production truck to these events and do a good job for the city, you want a responsible staff that's stable and knows what they're doing. Please realize we are not the Erie Zoo or the Philharmonic. We can't attract thousands and thousands of people to our organization. We can't sell hundreds of tickets for an event or trade tickets for sponsorships or promotion. We're not a huge church organization. We don't help unwed mothers. We don't find homes for puppies. We don't attract large donations. You know, it's a great idea that the city shouldn't have to fund us and we should find our own funding. But we have looked for funding. I think most of you know Gene Blyle. We have sought out funding in the community. We'd love to have that extra gravy, that extra funding to replace our 22-year-old cameras. It just isn't there. Why can't we we just can't create a new product or raise our rates significantly for what we do. Mill Creek has a 20-cent subscriber fee. They pass through their fee to the subscribers. They've done it since the 90s. It doesn't seem to cause a big problem. We asked for grants. Mayor and council basically said no, we can't have grants. And now there's question about how much funding we'll receive, whereas we had reliable and predictable funding before. The reason we couldn't have grants is because you didn't want a fee on the bill. We asked for about $350,000. It wasn't $600,000, it was about $350,000 to replace our aging equipment. It would have resulted in no more than a 15% fee to subscribers on their bill. Pittsburgh has a 60-cent per month fee on their bill. It's going to 90 cents. That's how they fund their cable access. It isn't unheard of. It isn't unusual. Allentown, other PA cities fund their access with franchise fees or pass-throughs. There isn't an access organization that we've been able to find that funds themselves through major fundraising. Part of the vision of previous councils allowed for grants within the franchise. Previously, those grants paid for equipment, they paid for a production truck. That stuff's all from 1991 now. We operate on a shoestring. We're as efficient as any city authority or department. I've studied your budget. I know you've had to make tough decisions. I know that there are areas of the budget that you had to trim, virtually every area. But those areas weren't necessarily operating as lean as CAT TV always has. We've always had to be lean. There isn't really a place for us to cut. Feel free to examine our budget. It's very lean. We've cut already, and we've always operated that way. So please, give us the certainty that we can continue to be around for the next 10 years of this next franchise. We'd ask that you put back the wording in the new franchise that was in the old franchise. Fund us with that 1% of the 4%, of the 5% cable franchise fee. And give us that predictable, reliable funding so that we can continue to perform as well as we always have for the city, have a stable staff and a stable operation, and help make Erie a better place. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Lechner.
Excuse me, Mr. Lechner?
Mr. Lechner.
Mr. Lechner?
We have some questions for you. Mr. President?
Certainly.
I just had a couple questions. You alluded to the fact that you help children to learn about how to operate the equipment and stuff. If you could you provide us with any numbers on how many kids per year that you deal with and that go through the CAT TV training?
Sure, I could
Okay.
provide a report.
And then I just had a question, like, how many programs are there on a weekly basis on CAT TV?
Well, we do hundreds of hours of original programming every month. On a weekly basis, I'm not sure what the number would be, but
And then,
I could give you
yeah,
an
if,
exact
well, just,
number
if, I mean,
on a
if you could
monthly
just,
basis.
I mean, these are some of the things that I'm looking for when, in terms of forming a decision. We've,
Be happy to
according,
give you a full recap of
Yeah.
the schedule and
we've asked for a long-range plan. Have you been able to provide that, or is there any?
we've looked at long-range planning. One of the uncertainties is if we haven't had to do fundraising before. A lot of fundraising, as Gene Blyle found out, is fundraising. It takes years to develop a stable funding base. And a lot of it is just developing relationships. And generally, those organizations that do so are larger organizations. We're a 3-person operation. We aren't a huge organization in terms of being able to establish a large fundraising effort. You can't go out without upsetting United Way or the Erie Community Foundation and do a general fundraising and do a huge campaign. They like you to work within those organizations. There's certainly more needy organizations than we.
No.
We realize that.
I don't want to hug all the time.
That's
A
okay.
couple more questions. And that was one of them. Have you approached the Erie Community Foundation or the Erie Gaming Authority for funding as a community
We
asset?
can get occasional grants for things. If the roof's coming in, we need air conditioning, or the equipment will fail, you can get grants for stuff, as I think you know. What you cannot get grants for generally would be operating funds, keeping the lights on, paying your employees.
And then just two more questions, or well, I can combine it into one. Have you ever thought of partnering with either like Gannon, Edinburgh, or Erie School District, or, another organization to kind of strengthen numbers type situation?
Had some confidential discussions with various groups, but there are obstacles which I'd be happy to
And then,
Happy to discuss with you at some point.
and then are you able to charge, the last question, are you able to charge fees to those nonprofits who you service, like Perry 200? Would you be able to charge them a $100 fee for being there all day and filming? I'm just asking. I don't have to laugh at me.
Perry Group makes a lot of money. We occasionally...
Or is it free? I mean, you just offer that as an in-kind contribution to...
Occasionally, there are groups, and St. Martin's is one, where they can achieve a grant and earmark a portion of that for CAT TV so that we can help them on a more extensive basis than just a short video, for instance.
Right.
We'll work with them more extensively in their fundraising efforts. So there are arrangements like that that we can make. And in some cases, there may be organizations like Perry that are willing to help us out. But typically, for us to do Perry, that was about a $2,000 a day to handle that amount of overtime, wear and tear on equipment, et cetera. And it's very difficult to get somebody willing to pay that kind of, make that kind of commitment.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
The CAT TV or cable access television, what's your designation as far as nonprofit? Is it 501c3?
501c3, yes.
And how long have you been in that status?
It was incorporated at the end of '97.
Okay, since 97. Okay. Mr. Mirsky asked a few of my questions, I guess. Great minds think alike. And then there's us, right? Well, you talked about the issue of rates. You have organizations, churches, nonprofits, individuals, whatever. What is the rate to be trained and then to utilize the equipment?
A one-year fee for an organization is typically $70, and that covers the first individual from that organization. They can sign up other people from the organization for about $30 apiece.
Okay.
Individuals pay, let's say, $45. There are some variations depending on if you have cable or not, or if you're not a resident of the city but are involved in a city organization, you can join. You pay a little more in that case as well.
Okay. And there has been consideration on raising those rates or adjusting those rates?
A couple of years ago, there was some, about a year ago, there was some rate resistance. Again, most of the people who are our clients are there and because they are nonprofits or they don't have a lot of wherewithal. Or else they would buy time on commercial TV.
Or they value the market and the gift that you offer. And so I think, respectfully, sometimes I wonder if we don't value assets like cable access enough to pay for them. Again, every organization is different individuals, but sometimes I think we can devalue a great asset and then we accept that over time, that people won't pay. See, because it's for me, and I'm not trying to preach about anything, but I'm hearing and I've experienced as an elected, as a nonprofit, as a member of a church who utilized the services previously, that it's a great resource and a great asset. So if it's such a great resource and great asset, that doesn't match the argument that you can't generate funds for it. Now, maybe there's an avenue that we haven't tapped into. Maybe there's a partnership with the city and CAT TV, your leadership and others to maybe, okay, how do we get the message out better to generate funds? But from my little limited experience, if you have a great service, you should be able to generate funds to continue that service as a community asset. So I don't know where the disconnect from fundraising and the great gift is.
Our audience is fractionalized. We have a spiritual audience, we have individuals doing their own thing, we have musicians, and you know, to have that diverse a group
is a gift.
Is a gift, but it becomes difficult to organize a group like that.
They look pretty organized tonight. They look to be here in number, respectful, and this is not negative, I'm not meaning to come off facetious in any way. I'm saying if we raise our hands for the people in the audience who are here about CAT TV, I bet there's a very diverse group of people, religious, political, own artistic ability, experience, and preference. I think what we're seeing is that there is an opportunity to go beyond.
Cable subscribers have Channel 2 on their cable, and something should fund that. So why not cable subscribers, and why not through the franchise fee? It worked. It was an excellent. It's been an excellent funding mechanism since 1991.
Well, and I think, too, again, I'm probably open to can of worms. I usually do that. But I think at the same time, other nonprofits who are great resources to the community have had to continually adjust. And I'm not saying, and no one here is saying that we're going to cut anything with Cat TV. What we are saying is that we're requesting from another community asset, great gift to the community nonprofit, to follow a similar process that other nonprofits who offer great service and community assets to do the same thing.
Again, I'm not the Erie Playhouse. I don't have tickets that I can trade for promotion. I don't have a product or service I can charge.
I go back, and I'll be done, but I think to say that respectfully is devaluing the gift and the service you do have. I think you do have something to offer. I think cable access is something to offer that can, if done properly and managed properly, and I'm not talking about leadership management, I mean as far as marketing it, I think you can get a lot more out of what you don't think you can get anything out of. That's just, again, that's just my opinion, and I've heard your message, and that's what made me say what I'm saying.
Going back and forth for another time.
Anyone else?
I had just two quick questions, Bob. For the, I know the annual report's expensive to do and publish and everything, but have you ever published an annual report that, talks about, all the services that you've done? Because I've known about a lot of the services, but I've learned more just listening to you tonight. I don't know if you could put something on the website that would really, and then at least pass that out, because of course that could do without too much cost.
Our annual report details quite a bit what I talked, really pretty much everything I talked about tonight, including hours of programming that Bob Mursky asked about, and so on. It's very complete. And we're about to put the 2012 annual report, like most nonprofits, we do it a few months after the close of the fiscal year. But the 2011's up there, and 2012 looks much the same.
Okay. Then your board meeting dates, they're on the website also?
They are, and the clerk's office always calls and asks us for those meeting dates, I presume to be provided to council. But yes, we do publish our meeting dates.
Okay.
It's generally the second Wednesday of every month, with a couple exceptions for
Okay.
annual meetings and retreats, but generally that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, I just wanted to make a comment, Bob. You mentioned during the course of your remarks something about operating effectively. Certainly, I don't think any of the opinions around this particular issue are related to a concern about the operations of Cat TV. I think you've done a commendable job, and I've heard nothing but similar comments from everybody associated with the organization. So I think we would, if we were concerned about the operation of Cat TV, I think we'd probably be having a much different discussion than this. So whether you're in favor or not in favor of this particular provision, it certainly has nothing to do with a concern about your organization or your leadership or the job you do for our community, because I think we're 7 people very much united in our appreciation of the job you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Lechner.
Mr. President, Mr. Minarski, thank you. Board members, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I want to do 3 things. I want to introduce myself. I want to speak in support of public access. And finally, I'd like to present some alternatives economically.
Sure. Excuse me, could you please just state your name and address, please?
I apologize.
That's all right.
Scott Jones, 2542 East 43rd, Erie.
Thank you.
So part of what we want to do tonight is to present some options and commit my company to be a part of the long-term health of public access. My name is Scott Jones. I'm the founder and president of a company called IMTV. We're Erie's only independent local cable television network. Our mission statement is we're transforming lives in the community by building creative outlets and connecting people to those outlets. We started broadcasting March 21st, and we've broadcast regularly since then. Right now, you can see us on Channel 180 on the City on Time Warner Cable, 8 to 10, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, And then we have faith-based programming on Sundays between 10 in the morning and noon. I also have a channel in Crawford County. It's channel 225, and there we air Crawford County's only primetime real estate showcase. In July, we'll be broadcasting not only on the city but also in the county. So it'll be city, county, and then Crawford County. And we are a for-profit organization that realizes the gift of cable access, and we've been able to monetize it. And actually, being on the air since March 21st, some of our sponsors, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm also a combat veteran, and I'm also a product of public access. It's me coming into a CAT studio that made me realize this is something I could do. And it took me 20 years to get here, but CAT was the thing that started me. Some of my clients are Dave Hallman Chevrolet, Harley-Davidson of Erie, Regional Chamber of Commerce, and the Erie City Mission. As a matter of fact, it was my group, my company, IMTV, that brought the kids from the City Mission to public access and give them that same chance that I had. And, but because CAT was here, we were able to do that, and we're very grateful. Now that you know who I am, let me outline why public access is important. We need it because it provides education and training. And I'm just going to hit highlights because this has all been covered. It's an incubator for creative people. There's shows like Austin City Limits, Tom Green, if you're young enough to know who Tom Green was, and Bozo the Clown, if you're old enough to know who Bozo is. All started on a local television programming, just like what CAT provides. And the third thing we need is because it provides a creative outlet for people who wouldn't have an opportunity. And it provides inspiration. If we lose public access, the community will lose public access. Nonprofits, churches, the dreamers, the transformers, people that have a message, will lose an outlet that we currently have this access now that we wouldn't have otherwise. And we lose educational opportunities. I was mentioning the Bonkers for Jesus this morning with the City Mission. We had, if you want numbers, I can know for sure 7 went through today. And we have actually put people through the public access CAT's training program, and I'm actually paying people now that have gone through CAT to work for me. People to just make a few bucks, taking a camcorder, and going to events like CAT does, but we're commercial. Self-supporting. We lose a resource and an opportunity for people with potential to pursue media broadcast, and once it's gone, it's gone. We realize that there potentially could be a problem with the way public access is now, and it may change. That's the uncertainty. But the answer is not to do away with it. We think we have a solution. I think IMTV has options. It was mentioned earlier about joining with other organizations, and we present an organization that I currently am running a television station and would love to be a part of this solution, maintain public access integrity. We have ideas that are precedented in other areas, and I would like to call and schedule a meeting to discuss any details. And what I would like to do is so we can stay in touch, I have my contact information on a copy of the Erie Reader, which, if you haven't read it, it really is an excellent article on what's going on right here and our relationship with CAT TV. And Rob Lechner is an excellent leader, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, Mr. Evans, because, yeah, this is not a reflection on the management or the way that studio is run. We love CAT Studio. We need CAT Studio. I've trained between 15 and 20 people through CAT, people that normally wouldn't have an opportunity or the means, almost like a community college. In conclusion, once again, my name is Scott Jones. I'm the president of IMTV Cable Network, Erie's only independent local cable television station. It'd be a shame to lose this creative educational outlet that Erie deserves. IMTV is prepared to help and serve our community. I'll be sending all of you an email shortly to establish contact with you. And on behalf of the whole IMTV crew, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Can I approach him?
Hi.
Hiya.
I'm Tim Kolakowski, 432 Kokwa. Mr. Mursky, you asked about kids who might be involved in Cat TV. Well, I will tell you about one. My son and I. He's a prep, and he's involved in a TV station, and he needed some practice being more comfortable on the air, reading off a teleprompter. And I've driven past the building 100,000 times. And one day in January, I stopped in and told them what I was interested in doing, and they said, why don't you just join and produce your own TV shows? And I was amazed that we had the opportunity to do that here. For $40 each, we went through the training program. My son gets practice now and loves it. This may lead to a career. There's no place else that he was going to get that experience. I mean, he gets it at school, but he doesn't have the chance to practice. He and I have learned how to use all the equipment, get a lot of help, don't we, from the staff, because I can't program a VCR, but I've learned how to produce a television show. I would hate to see this changed. I know you have all said at one time or another tonight that you don't mean to do away with Cat TV, that you mean to provide a budget, but it also sounds to me like this 1% of the city's cable revenue was meant to fund this so that it could be there consistently and to be counted on, and that it could be staffed with people like DJ, who's about to come up behind me, and Jake and Bob, who know what they're doing, who know how to run the organization, who can count on their jobs. And I just don't think that should be changed in any way. And the other thing that, as I learned about Cat TV, I knew nothing about it until January, but I was amazed at the number of organizations that count on it. And it would just be a shame to have that change. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Greetings. My name is DJ Barger. I live on 45 Lethbridge Lane, and I am a longtime member and short-time employee of Cat TV. And I like to think that I'm one of the three faces that bring a human side to Cat TV. Although I'm not saying my coworkers are not human, but I have suspicions that one of them may be a robot. And being a human, I like to think that you as humans, 7 people sitting up there on a council, will maybe understand where I'm coming from. I like to do things simply. I like to follow the KISS theme of life, keep it simple, stupid, because I'm stupid. And I think the simplest thing that could be done would be, I know you're not making the decision tonight, but I know it's taken 2 years to negotiate with Time Warner over this contract, but take a couple more weeks and think about it and do the simplest thing you can do and guarantee us the 1%. Because to most people, 1% is not a big number. It's 1%. It's one of the smallest numbers you can have. But to us and to our members, these people here, and a number of people that couldn't come tonight, 1% is 100%. It's almost our entire budget. And to have that money and to have it guaranteed guarantees that we will not slowly have money taken away, but we can at least maintain the level we're at and hopefully grow like we have over the past over a decade. That very small number, number 1, to us, if you just table the signing and write in a guaranteed 1% for us to get the money so that we can continue to serve our members and the community and shut-ins and people all over the place. I think that that's the simplest thing you can do. It's the least trouble that you guys could possibly have. We wouldn't have to come and beg every year. And we could continue like we have for over a decade, and we can get better. We can improve our services, we can learn new things, we can delve more into the internet and maybe teaching people how to upload YouTube videos as well. But there's a lot of things we can do with that money. And I think that the simple human side of this is just let us have that 1% and let us continue to grow so that we could help the community and help our members. Like I said, I'm a simple person, and if all it is 1%, I think it's the simplest thing you can do is to guarantee that so that we don't have to worry about 7 of you going away at some point in the future. You all go away and there's 7 more people sitting in your place, and as some of our members have said, we don't know what they're going to be thinking. They may not have the vision that the people had that put this all together and the vision that you guys can have to help us continue what we're doing. So all I'm saying is please keep it simple, and thank you very much for letting us have this time tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. President, members of council, Joe, Mr. Solicitor, and Mr. Clem. I think I forgot you last time I was here.
Okay.
Sorry, Jim. I'll just be very briefly. I think most points have been covered.
Mr. Maris, could you please state your name?
1530 West 24th, Erie, PA,
Thank you.
16502.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I'm here in support of community access television. As a former member of City Council, I participated in it, both as a candidate and being interviewed as a City Council person. Jean Blau was in charge back then, and Jean and the staff did a great job. She was in charge for over 10 years, and they were super. I think you've got a terrific community asset there. They've done a tremendous job. I've never heard any complaints about community access television. Could it be promoted a little bit more? Perhaps, yes. Could it be funded? Could they go out and be the funds? Well, they have to sell a lot of donuts and chocolate bars to make up $200,000. I doubt it. I doubt it really. I've looked at that pretty carefully, and they just couldn't be able to do it. So when you bring up questions, and you're allowed to question those questions, but I can tell you the chances are, they have 2 chances to come up with that 1% on their own. Slim and none. And that's the truth. Almost impossible. I don't want to say impossible, but almost impossible. So that 1% fee, I would hope you would keep it as it is. It's basically meant for the rate subscribers. It's about $200,000 a year. They've done a great job in educating our young people. They've done a great job with entertainment. I've watched it myself. I hope you members of council have too on occasion. I don't watch it every day, but I view it now and then. I've seen Shiloh Baptist Choir there. I've seen some great entertainment. I've seen some preachers that would really put their heart and soul into it too. And I've seen some good discussions, both politically and in business. I'm a great fan of Maria Callas, the opera star and diva of the past, and they had a show on her on the arts part of Channel 2, and it was fantastic. She was a great talent. So there's a diversity there that goes across the board. We have diverse groups that are involved in it across the community. One woman said it was a gem at the beginning. She spoke. She's absolutely right. Took the words out of my mouth. But it's a community asset. It's an asset that's been, I guess we really don't consider it much, do we? We don't think about it. They're sort of taken for granted. That's very unfortunate. They've done a good job. If you need them, they're there. Ms. Blau did a great job. And every report, I don't know Mr. Lechner, but everything I've heard, him and the Board of Trustees have done a good job. City Council, you know your duties, and you've got some pretty rough times up here. Some things have been going on lately that are very difficult in city government. And I commend you and the mayor for all the work you've done, especially with the city finances. Done a remarkable job in keeping the ship afloat through very difficult economic times. We all know that. You don't need other duties, though. You don't need to be involved in cable television. Who's going to determine if the city takes the money? And every group that has to come to you or come to
the cable access television say, we'd like to be on. Well, there's a time frame involved in that, number one. Number two, who's going to say who's on and who's not? You have enough duties to do without having to worry about that. You've got a board that's doing a good job. You've got an executive director doing a good job. I hope you do the right thing and keep that 1% funding in there for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Jackie Webb, 1214 East State Street. And I want to say I've ran a show, the Jackie Webb Show, on cable, on Cat TV for many years now, but only recently this year have I decided to take the plunge and start producing my own shows. And that's because I'm really technically challenged. And I really was sort of, I'd rather almost, well, I've had a lot of help from DJ and Jake. They're just great. And Willis Barnes, thank you. And I just want to say I really appreciate that opportunity. And I wanted to mention that there was an awesome editorial in the paper today, and it was written by Gene Blyle. And the headline is, Why Erie City Council Should Keep Cable Access Funding. And this article helped me to understand even more the issues, the historical value of Cat TV, the funding, and the fee structure. And I think Jean did an excellent job. I remember, in fact, that's when I got involved in Cat TV, when she was the director. And I forgot, I did send a little email to all the council members, and thank you for your response, John Evans. And I just want to say, I forgot to say one thing. You know, I don't get paid for being on Cat TV. I don't advertise, and I don't sell CDs. And that's all because there's ordinances against that, and it's a nonprofit. And I have a church, or not a church, a faith-based program, I guess. And I'm just amazed that so many people have said to me that they look forward to seeing my program, or they even watch it. I'm just amazed. And I really wanted not to get involved in the producing aspect, just because I don't really feel it's my call technically. But you know, I feel like I'm obligated to so many people because they do watch it, and I just never realized that number of people. And I would just urge you to keep that money there that has been there at least from this article that Jean wrote, and keep that funding coming. And even as I've sat here in this meeting tonight, I see great potential for Cat TV, and even in ways that I didn't even think of. And I just want to say thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you also. Good evening.
How y'all doing? My name is Dana Stovall, 928 West 23rd, Erie, Pennsylvania. And it's funny because I've been with Cat almost 11 years. And my heart never beat like this before. I am nervous for some reason. One of the things I say in my programs, what I always say at the end of my programs is, I do this for you. When I exercise, this is my way of giving back to people, is what I do. Okay? I always tell people, I'm not rich, I don't have a lot of money. Only thing I can give you is what I have. And what I have is my health. And my way of giving back to people is exercise on TV. And the reason why I started from exercising is because probably about 12 years ago I got hurt. Had an operation on my shoulder. I used to run a gym. And one of the things that someone came to me and told me, because I used to be a trainer until I got hurt, but I was so scared that someone thought I was faking, I had to leave the gym completely alone. And someone told me an idea about a Cat TV. And I came and it was just that easy. And this is my way of telling them, if you can't, I can't do it personally, but you can watch me on TV and I can give back to you in another way. That's the best way I can tell people. I ain't got time, because now I got my kids, and my kids is everything to me. But besides that, number one, and number two, the third best thing in my life is Cat TV. I've been doing it for, like I said, 11 years, and I love it. It's my pride, and if you ever watch it, sometimes I get hyped, because that's my high. I ain't never drank, I ain't never smoked, but when I'm on TV, I can get carried away. The faster I talk, the more I'm hyped I am. But then when you meet me, I still talk a lot, but I don't talk as excited. But one of the things that I love about Cat TV is because it's for people who don't have money, people who just don't have a lot of things interested in their life. So you can come to your program, you have something you want to do something with yourself, but you don't have a lot of money. So you go to Cat TV, and you can do it a lot cheaper than you can ever do it anywhere else. And like I said, I've been doing this for, I'm reminding you over and over again, 11 years. 11 years I've been doing this. And, yes, and a lot of people don't recognize me. They call me Who. Just in case I didn't say that, my name is Who. And if you don't know Who, I always say, ask somebody. But a lot of people don't recognize me until my kids pull up. When my kids come behind me, they say, oh, yeah, that is him. Because they wait for my kids. Then they say, that's him. All I'm saying is that I love what I do. And some people that watch my program love what I do too. But anything that you can do would help us. I mean, even if it made you think for a second, that's good enough. You know what I'm saying? Because I made you think. But like I said, I am Who, and what I do is for you, and it's free. I always tell people, number one channel on cable is Channel 2. A lot of people discover me because when your power get cut off, it comes on Channel 2, and that's how people found me. That's how a lot of people found me, because when power get cuts off, first channel be on is Channel 2. And I do silly things. I used to do more silly things to get people to watch. I do anything silly to make you watch my program. But my thing is, once you watch, bam, I got you. But I do silly stuff to get your attention first. But maybe while you're sitting there watching, maybe you decide to work out. I don't care if it's a can of beer, you're sitting there. Wow, you know, I find myself working out. Okay, whatever it takes. But I love what I do, and I am Who. And I appreciate everything that you can do. And I thank you. Thank you very much. And this is my daughter, Danny, and this is my son, Dana. As you can see, she likes being on the mic, too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, how we doing? My name is Israel Stone. I have 5 minutes. I live at 1343 West 30th Street. I run a show called Metropolis Music, Video, and Art here in Erie, Pennsylvania. When I arrived here in Pennsylvania, I wanted to see what was available here in Erie, Pennsylvania. So what I ended up doing is creating a show to visitors who would come here and see what's available. I started with the Erie Planetarium, went to Dobbins Landing, filmed History Center, numerous of events. Peter Fonda at the Roar Shore asked to make a movie with him. He said, "You're making one now," because I was filming him. Other shows, history, as I said, Courtesy Mansion. But anyway, what I wanted to do is create something. I worked at Fox 24 News as a film photographer, or shooter as they call us, with a camera. But creating my own show, it made something available here in Erie where people could watch a show and see who was visiting here, what was available. I found out that when I went to school for video production audio engineer, that my teacher always emphasized that you had to stay into the camera motion because it's constantly changing. Science, technology is forever changing. And in order to stay into the loop, you have to constantly be aware of what's new technology and equipment. So that has always helped me to be associated with access for filming. I appreciate this time for you guys to make sure that the funding is available for Cat TV, the 1%, unless you want to add 2 or 3, because my payment would be like 2 or 3 or 4, because I need a job too. But anyway, the 1% is cool, but 2 would be great. Anyway, thanks for this opportunity. I know that Mr. Jones indicated that getting outside funding would be, fantastic, like from the Gaming Association. I know sometimes when you interact with other gaming or like casino or wherever organizations, sometimes they want to own it and turn it into something different. They could turn it into something of their own, and it may not be more of an independent resource, and it may take away, but it could add the financial resources or financial stability. So that's a fantastic idea. Anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Any other citizens to be heard regarding cable access television? Any other citizens? I know Ms. Kunzo has been working diligently on this for the last 2 years, as well as keeping council abreast on any new developments, and I'd just like to give her the floor right now to explain some of the reasonings behind this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I do want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. The purpose of the hearing, of course, we talked about was to hear comment on the franchise agreement. We have heard your concerns about the CAT TV. I did want to just remind everyone that we are really not discussing or deciding on funding in this agreement. This agreement is between the Erie City and Time Warner Cable, and it is regard to particularly to the franchise fee, which is the 5% fee we've talked about for the use of the right-of-way. We will be looking into, of course, funding issues of CAT TV at budget time, as we have talked about, and there's no change at this juncture, just that we will be doing that through a different agreement rather than through the franchise agreement. That franchise agreement, as several people talked about, did expire 7 years ago. The city did attempt through our solicitor's office to renegotiate that franchise agreement. About 5 years ago, we made attempts to do that negotiations ourselves, and Time Warner is a very tough customer in terms of negotiating, and we really got nowhere. We ended up spinning our wheels, and the biggest concern about not having an active franchise agreement for me was that there's no guarantee that they would continue to pay the 5% franchise fee, nor would they be responsible or liable for any of issues that could occur with the cable outside of an active franchise agreement. So as the chair of the Erie Area COG, one of the initiatives that the COG, which is a municipal government cooperation organization, did was to pull different municipalities from Erie County who were in the same position we are as having an expired Time Warner contract, so that we could negotiate as a group with Time Warner, thereby at least getting them to the table to renew and recreate a franchise agreement. So it did take, I think DJ said it took us at least 2 years, I think 2.5, to get to where we're at today, where we've got Time Warner and the municipalities agreeing on the terms of the agreement. The important things about the agreement, that we've talked about, it's very important. It's a 10-year agreement. It's important that we have the language proper in the agreement, since it is going to extend for 10 more years. And one of the missing pieces in the past agreement was a quarterly itemization of the fees we were receiving, so that we know we're being compensated adequately. These are subscriber charges. As you all know, my bill has $5.82 on it, so I want to make sure that the city is receiving all $5.82 a month from every subscriber, or whatever it is, if it varies, and to ensure that there's restoration, repair, and liability for damages and things like that will be taken care of in this contract with Time Warner. So, I thank you all for coming. We did hear your pleas. We do understand your concerns about CAT TV. I think one of the things that came up is you have a very valuable service. People are learning a lot by being members of CAT TV, and we certainly are not interested in closing that door, just looking for opportunities to create a funding mechanism that is sustainable for the long run for both the City of Erie and CAT TV. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Kunso, Council? With that, I believe our...
No.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. At this point, the public hearing has come to a close. And Mr. Clem, I believe we continue with citizens to be heard.
Council's pleasure.
Any other citizens to be heard this evening?
Hi, my name is Martha Ginnery, and I live at 758 East 6th Street. And I have a concern over the bus changes. I was never informed of where to go. We were informed that the changes were made, but there's no bus stops, like the booths where the elderly can sit down. Especially on 9th Street behind the Avalon. 9th and State was a really busy place for people. That's where we would transfer buses, we'd stop in Dollar General, the elderly would have somewhere in lighted areas. They would have, as far as I was told, there were cameras all across State Street that people would be safe. How do we know that we're going to be safe on French or on Peach? At night, I don't even know where to go tonight to actually catch the bus home with all these changes, because I don't know where I'm going to be safe by myself. And on Sundays, I meet my friend who is an elderly woman who can't hardly walk, has blood clots in her legs, falls getting on the bus, falls getting off the bus. Usually I just have to cross the street, help her off the bus, we go across the street, get on another bus. We can't do that. We've got 2 blocks to go either way. I'm a disabled person, I wear ankle braces, so it's hard for me to help someone else if I can't even help myself now. And with all these changes, like, yeah, they have the lift programs, but if you're not going to a doctor's appointment where your medical's being billed, it's not covered. You have to pay $220, depending on what area you're going to, sometimes $440 just one way. And there's nowhere to sit. I had to sit on the floor and then on the ground and ask somebody to help me up because I couldn't stand that long. And I'm only 30 years old. I don't really have that much of a medical problem, but I can only imagine how many people are going to be stuck at home, missing doctor's appointments, because of all these changes that weren't thought out. I have 2 small children. I have a stroller to push half the time. What are people with walkers doing? Are there curb cuts on those other streets? Have they even looked at the lighting, the elderly at all? I mean, no one's really talked about what was actually happening when they do this change. It should have been looked into a little more. And maybe a year-long study or something beforehand as to how many people ride which buses. Maybe some buses could be taken off the route instead of all buses. Or some type of information that could be given to the people, like the schedules. There's no schedules up on Peach Street at all. I don't even know where the nearest bus stop is on Peach Street. The closest bus stop that I know of, I have to go all the way to 6th and French because I don't know where to go. And French Street, where the parking garage is, that's dark. There's an alley nearby. It's not really safe. Even on State Street, it wasn't really safe because you have a lot of people come into the shelter that just sit there. So there's no telling what could actually happen. Maybe the crime rate will go up. We don't know what's actually going to happen. It has not been researched enough. If there could be a program set up or something, that would be helpful. Because right now, I feel like I'm helpless. Like, I have no options. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Leonard Davenport. My address is 463 West 8th Street. I am a beneficiary of what Cat did. I had a program on through the Mental Health Association called Telling Our Stories. I'm a licensed massage therapist. I owe a lot to Erie. I came here 42 years ago. I thank Erie for the opportunities it's given me, but I'm here tonight to talk about this bus issue. The police over the years, even though State Street was congested, they patrolled it, so there wasn't as many incidents of crime. Now the crime rates are going up. There's robberies and shootings all over town. Is French Street going to be equipped with halogen lights and protection for seniors, your sisters, your mothers, your grandmothers? They're at risk. There's a lot of dark places. So, I mean, are those going to be illuminated where people can see with a police presence, or are people just going to be put out there, you know, at their own risk and peril? Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
All right. Any other citizens to be heard this evening? Okay.
My name is Kristen Maria Sanford. I live at 241 East 10th. Hello, Jessica. Good to see you again. I'm gonna start with an example concerning EMTA, coinciding with the Boston Store wooden clock. Most of you remember under the clock inside the department store. Okay, that clock has stayed intact in the department store, which is now apartments, in the first floor. To me, EMTA should have stayed the same way. It should have been left intact. Senate, to me, he has no idea what it's like to have to walk to a bus stop, to have to catch it in the wintertime, waiting for the streets to be cleared and all that, for traffic to get through. Just basically, these guys are my friends and those of us at MHA, as well as downtown, those that we signed the petitions. As a whole, we're people too, just like the homeless. The Senate cannot shove us under the carpet pretty much anymore, just like the homeless, and said EMTA, this same thing with EMTA. Our voices should have been allowed to be heard by him, by all of you here. I have no idea if he did this on his own without you guys' input. From what I understand, I'm 44 years old. Bodies of government are supposed to coincide, are supposed to share your opinions with each other and come up with ideas combined with us to come up with the solutions to these problems. And also, it's Senate pulled what I consider that's kind of like the Bible. It's a verse in our Bible that any of you that go to church, that it says that we are not supposed to force Christianity or any religion down each other's throats. To me, Senate did this to you guys and to us. That it was forced down our throats. And I just, I've been here, darn that thing. I have been here 17 and a half years already. I did not grow up here, but I've seen the changes when I came up here back in 95, and 94, 95. And same as Philippi, real quick, with cutting the fire department, like he did. This was stupid, this was ignorant, and we did what we had to do to be able to speak, to try to get the support from all the bus riders concerned, the elderly, those of us that are MHMR, mental health, and mentally retarded. Said it just, and my friends, all of our input is pretty much correct with what we've seen through the years. That with Front Street.
Ma'am, with all due respect.
Yes, I'm sorry.
If you could wrap it up, please.
Yeah, I know, everybody's ready to go home pretty much, but I'm not good at words, I'm nervous like that gentleman. Said, I just know this was wrong, and like I said, too much like the clock, it just, things needed to stay intact, because it's more confusing than ever. So, that's pretty much it.
All righty. Thank you. Any other citizens be heard? Unfortunately, ma'am, it's one per evening, but thank you anyway. Any other citizens to be heard? Hearing none, Mr. Clem.
Okay, we have ordinances for final passage. Council file ordinance number 15,834. An ordinance amending official ordinance number 80, 2005, known as the zoning ordinance of the City of Erie, by changing the classification of property located at McClellan and Bayfront Highway, being approximately 38 acres, from C3 Central Business District to that of C2 General Business District, per the request of Vendetti Brothers Associates. Motion of Mr. Witherspoon, second by Mr. Mursky. The council file ordinance bill number 15,834, now known as official file ordinance number 13, 2013, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brennan? Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Ancuzzo?
No.
Mr. Jones? Mr. Mursky? Mr. Witherspoon? Mr. Winarski? Ordinance is adopted on final passage, ayes 5 and ayes 2. Council file ordinance 15,835, an ordinance appropriating a sum of $14,254.46 from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue for the reimbursement of the purchase of EMS prevention supplies for the fire department. Motion, Mr. Mursky, second by Mr. Brennan. The council file ordinance bill number 15,835, now known as official file ordinance 14, 2013, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brennan, Mr. Evans, Mrs. Rankutsu, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski. Council file ordinance 15,836, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $83,300 from unappropriated and unanticipated revenue for the reimbursement of the purchase of fire prevention supplies for the Bureau of Fire. Motion of Mr. Mursky, second by Mr. Brennan. The council file ordinance bill number 15,836, now known as official file ordinance 15, 2013, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brennan, Mr. Evans, Mrs. Rankutsu, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski. Council file ordinance 15,837, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $100,058 from unappropriated and anticipated revenue and providing for their expenditure thereof in the 2013 Insurance Fraud Prevention Authority for the Bureau of Police. Motion by Mr. Witherspoon, second by Mr. Winarski. The council file ordinance bill number 15,837, now known as official file ordinance 16, 2013, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brennan, Mr. Evans, Mr. Rankutsu, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski. Council file ordinance 15,838, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $2,887,689 from unappropriated anticipated revenue to be received from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, $440,748.74 reprogram funds from previous community development block grant CDBG years, and $30,000 program income for a total of $3,358,437.74 for fiscal year 2013 projects. Motion, Mr. Evans, second by Mr. Jones. Council file ordinance bill number 15,838, now known as official file ordinance 17, 2013, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brennan, Mr. Evans, Mr. Rancuso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski. Council file ordinance 15,839. An ordinance appropriating the sum of $625,431 from unappropriated anticipated revenue to be received from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and $237,464.85 program income for a total of $862,895.85 for home projects in 2013 fiscal year. Motion, Mr. Evans, second by Mr. Jones, the council file ordinance bill number 15,839, now known as official file ordinance 18-2013, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brennan, Mr. Evans, Mrs. Rancuso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski. Council file ordinance 15,840, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $203,223 from unappropriated anticipated revenue to be received from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the Emergency Solutions Grant 2013 fiscal year project. Motion, Mr. Evans, second by Mr. Jones. The council file ordinance bill number 15,840, now known as official file ordinance 19-2013, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brennan, Mr. Evans, Mrs. Rancuso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski. Those ordinance all passed unanimously. Next, we have resolutions under new business.
Mr. President, move the balance of the agenda.
I'd like to second that emotion.
Mr. Clem voting on the balance. Any separations?
On note on number 3, the amount in that contract distribution went from $1,406 to
Additional 1406.
yeah, it's 1406 additional, but that was increased to $1,600. So the total contract amount will be $21,600. Any other exceptions?
Any other separations? Hearing none, Mr. Clem.
Voting on the balance of the agenda, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Evans, Mr. Rancuso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Winarski. Okay. I believe that takes us to committee reports, Mr. President.
Mr. Witherspoon.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report.
Ms. Kunso.
Thank you, Mr. Winarski. I attended the Parking Authority's meeting on June the 11th, and the authority is continuing to look for new ways to save money. Right now, they're looking at lighting changes to reduce electricity costs. In terms of the budget, their expenses are under budget to date, and they're managing their finances well. They also have implemented the new program for parking with handicapped persons, and that program has evolved, and they're working out any glitches that are occurring as they move forward and working out any special issues that arise, so they're continuing to monitor that progress. Just a couple brief things. One of our comments tonight was Mr. McDonald was talking about our community development block grant budget, which is on our agenda for adoption today. That is the monies that they talked about that goes to the neighborhood centers, but additionally it goes to things like cleaning up blight, rehabbing homes, and emergency issues that people might have in terms of their homes. And the one item he pointed out was a $200,000 allocation, in which he said was to Housing Authority, and I just wanted to clarify that's Housing Rehab, which is the Redevelopment Authority, and that's for someone who owns a private home. The CDBG money doesn't go to Housing Authority, it receives funding through HUD. It's different, so I just wanted to clarify that we have money in here for Erie Redevelopment Authority to help them to be able to rehab citizens' homes, which they can't afford to make those rehabs themselves. So that's what that money is for. And just a reminder, the summer rec program has started for many of our youth. A lot of activities available for those city residents, including like learning to swim, learning to play tennis, playground programs where kids can go all day long and have supervised activity and also a meal. So I just always like to encourage citizens to take advantage of those programs because we like to be able to offer something to our citizenry and we like them to take advantage of it. And I'm sure if they had any questions about it, they could contact City Hall and get that information directly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mursky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to piggyback off of what Jessica said with Summer Rec, JFK began their Summer Rec program June 17th. Trinity Center's going to be starting up soon, and also the tennis program is going to be starting up soon. So if you're still time to get in those programs, take advantage of that. It is on the city's website, or you can call the Parks Department. Also, from streets, the street paving schedule came out, and we're doing a lot of streets this year, and please be patient as the work gets done. We're doing some work ourselves, and also we are contracting out some of the work. So, a lot of money's being spent on it. We're trying to do the worst roads, and I understand, we wish every road could be paved, but unfortunately there's only so much money in the budget and only so much manpower out there to do the paving. So be on the lookout for that. Sounds of Summer, June 24th at the Curry Shell Apartments on Shaper Ave. The Bugle Boys Swing Band's going to be playing, so it should be a good time for all. And then finally, just something I noticed lately with the police and fire. Please, if you're in your car and you see a fire truck or a police vehicle going through the intersection, be courteous and stop. I've seen this twice now in the past 2 weeks where people have just blown right through, even because they had the green light and did not pay attention. Maybe they had their music up. I don't know why they didn't stop, but they almost caused an accident with our emergency vehicles. And I'm sure the same thing happens with EmergiCare vehicles as well. Please be aware that by law you have to stop in the for the intersection when they have their sirens going. So. And the same thing goes with when they're on the street. If you can pull off to the side, please do so, because they're providing a vital service and helping people. So thank you.
Mr. Mursky. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. And two, just to, I guess we use the term piggyback, when you are on that straightaway street, I believe the proper way is to veer off to the right. And I've seen accidents caused by people trying to get off but going to the left. The emergency police car, in particular, police car, gentleman tried to move off to the left. The officers expected him to go to the right, and it was just a really bad situation. And so, those little things mean a lot. So again, not just veer off, but veer off to the proper portion of the street and do that to the best of your ability. In relation to the EMTA, I'm being in communication with the staff there, the executive director, to find out, and by next meeting I'll have some more report out on this. If the change obviously has happened, and there's going to be some things that are obviously not working well, but for me, what's not acceptable is for people to be unsafe because of dark streets at night, and they have to catch public transportation. So my communication with the EMTA is, what are we, what can we, what are the processes, how quick are they going to be enacted to deal with some of the safety and security components of the move. Personally, I see both sides as far as why and rationale. To me, that's a moot point now. My biggest issue with the whole thing was just the lack of involvement, but with that said, it's done, so how do we figure it out? And it may change back, I don't know. But right now, it is what it is, and so we have to figure out how to make our citizens and keep them as safe as possible. And so that's going to be kind of where I'm at with the issue from this point moving forward. How do we deal with, again, the safety and the security component of this issue with the side streets are a little darker. There's some components, I'm being pretty nice about saying a little darker. It's pretty dark. And so we have to deal with that. So again, that's going to be what I bring to the meeting next time, to see what they're doing. Hopefully some things will have been enhanced by then. I'm sure there's a plan, but we need to know what it is. In relation to the public hearing that we had, again, we know it was in relation to the franchise negotiation with Cat TV, or excuse me, with Time Warner. It just all runs together, right? But of course, I mean, cable access is a component of that broader discussion, and so I think it was appropriate to have some dialogue about it. I want to make sure that my comments weren't perceived or seen as negative or anti Mr. Lechner or cable access. My thing was, you do have something great. Let's find a way to make it work and do what's best for the whole of our community, and don't downplay your greatness. And that was my point. So I hope I didn't come off again combative or in confrontation. I just wanted to I was trying to make a point, and hopefully again that was a clear point, and it was not an adversarial contest with Mr. Lechner. There was one more thing. Oh, I did have a question. Now, I didn't want to ask it in that setting. But is that 20% of our franchise fee, I know it's 5% of the whole, but it's 20% of that 5 is what CAT has historically gotten. Yes. Is that mandated? No. What mandates are on that? Because we hear that language, no. But I don't know if that's just history.
Mr. Jones, the FCC regulation, which Cohen explained to us during the negotiating process, is that the cable provider must provide channels, what they call PEG channels, public education and government channels. They do not dictate who pays for any programming or running of those channels, just that the cable provider must have a channel available for use for public education and government uses. But there's nothing in the FCC that requires municipalities to fund those. And as a matter of fact, Cohen, originally when they first opened our old franchise agreement to talk with us about renewal, immediately red flagged the issue that they had never seen the operating support for an access channel in a franchise agreement. And that was their first recommendation, is that we not include any funding commitment to an access channel in a franchise agreement, that franchise agreement is solely between the municipality, who has the fiduciary responsibility for the right-of-way, and the cable contractor.
And I knew that we had discussed that before, but I wanted to make sure I had that right question, or that right answer, proper answer.
And it is 20% of the franchise revenue, as opposed to 1%. It's a 5% pie. It comes to about $1 million, and 20% was going directly to CAT TV without council or administrative oversight, because the checks were cut directly to CAT TV under the old agreement.
All right,
Sorry, don't mean to lecture you.
No, that's all right. Because I think sometimes you can't have a legitimate discussion until you have all the right information. And so a lot of people said that this was mandated and this was legally, should be for cable access, and that's not accurate. And so I think, again, you have a skewed discussion if you have inaccurate information floating around. And so I think, again, that cable access television is an asset, and I think that it should continue. I think it will continue, maybe not in its same form. I'll read this, and I wrote it down because somebody caught my attention. One of the individuals spoke. They said that over the last 10 years, it's been the same, and why change it? And I wrote myself a question: who operates today as if they did over the last 10 years and expects to be successful? None of us do that. I don't run my house the same way I did 10 years ago. None of us, we don't run the city the same way we did 10 years ago. And anything that is successful has to evolve and adjust to the current times to continue to be successful. And I think that, again, that's not saying anti-CAT. That's saying, let's look at this a different way. And there's a reality component to that. So thank you, Mr. President, for our time.
Mr. Evans.
Given the lateness of the hour, I really want to just give a brief report. We've all seen a lot of rather negative publicity recently about the challenges at General Electric, and it's easy to become somewhat downcast about Erie's future. But I had a chance this morning to attend the Visit Erie news conference, at which time they showed the new marketing campaign that they're going to be launching in Cleveland, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Toronto to market Erie. You'll recall that that's being paid for by an additional 2% hotel tax, which the hoteliers supported. County Council and the county executive approved. Ultimately, the state legislature approved, and is going into place now, with 100% of the proceeds of that tax going to Visit Erie. They expect to see a significant boost in tourism as a result of this marketing campaign, because their advertising budget will go from $60,000 a year to $800,000 a year. And it's easy to forget what tourism means to Erie. The revenue impact to the Erie community of tourism is just about $1 billion a year, with a B. So while we certainly lament the situation at GE and hope that that still works out in a way favorable to Erie, a way favorable to the employees of General Electric, and to all the suppliers of General Electric, there are some good news things happening in Erie on other fronts. And sometimes I think we tend to gauge our entire success or failure as a community on the basis of one event, over which we don't have very much control, unfortunately. The second thing, one of the things included on our agenda tonight was passing on a first reading some changes in the police pension rules. And I want to just applaud the police department for taking it on themselves to analyze this situation and to tighten the rules in certain areas where they felt the rules were possibly looser than they should be, and potentially exposing the pension fund to unnecessary or significant degradation over time. We're looking around the country increasingly at municipalities that are in bankruptcy and are grossly underfunded in their pension obligations, and the ultimate victims in that will be the city employees or county employees who have paid into these plans for years in many cases, but will receive little or nothing in return because the plans are so underfunded they won't get the pension that they thought they were going to receive. So the fact that, number one, the city has well-funded plans. CAS reminds us regularly that we're among the highest in percentage of funding of cities of our size in the state, but also that we have people and the police and fire and other bargaining units who are trying to protect the future of the funds and make sure they're used as they're supposed to, I think is really notable. And I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that the real instigators for this change was not the city, it was the people that are responsible for the plan. I just want to applaud them for doing that. I think that's another sign of the union and the leadership of the police department really taking a leadership role. That's a great thing. Lastly, I heard and confirmed earlier tonight that just as Councilman Mirsky talked about the paving issues and having some patience while we go through that process, we're going to have the opportunity to demonstrate more patience next year, because PennDOT has informed us that sometime next year they are going to replace the bridge on West 38th Street over I-79. And that means that that portion of 38th Street will be closed for somewhere around 6 to 8 months. And that's a very heavily traveled route in and out of the western part of Erie. And so I've talked to Doug, and they're already beginning to do some planning with PennDOT about what the detours will be and how to position traffic in various alternate routes, because it's no fun to go through something like this. So I'm sure that we'll have more to report as we get closer to finalizing a plan with PennDOT, but it's just something that we all need to anticipate is going to be a complication in a lot of people's lives for a good bit of 2014. That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Hopefully they do 2 lanes at a time and not the full thing.
No, sir. For what it's worth, I asked the PennDOT people that question, and they said, nope, the bridge all comes out.
One deal.
One deal.
Thank you. Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple updates from the Erie Redevelopment Authority. For the Union Square project, the developer's agreement has been fully signed, so that's taken care of. And because of that, the outstanding loan was paid to the $70,000 outstanding loan was paid to the Redevelopment Authority by the developer. And on a positive note, the closing was held for the first unit that was sold in the complex last Wednesday. So that's, of course, good news, and hopefully we're going to see more of that soon. I attend also the Little Italy Revitalization Committee meeting today. There's a lot of activity, but just some of the quick highlights is there's 3 new murals going up, additional flag banners, more park benches are going to be installed. Regarding the murals, representatives from the award-winning Philadelphia Mural Arts Program are coming to Erie this summer to train some of the artists, so that's a very exciting opportunity, I think. The date and locations to be determined. I haven't got information on that yet. And also an upcoming event that's coming up, the Perry 200 event. It's the Erie Playhouse Community Pageant. It's called the Spirit of Erie. It's at the Erie Bayfront Convention Center Tuesday, June 25th to Sunday, June 30th. My daughter's in the show, so hopefully I'll see everybody there. I'll be there.
Unvarnished plug there.
And also, I wanted to say thanks to all the people who showed up to talk about the EMTA issues and also the cable access television issues. Of course, every time we hear people speak, we always learn something new, so it's great to get the opportunity to hear people, all their experiences and the opportunities that they've gained or even problems that they've had. So that's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Just to follow up with Dave there, I mean, in the last couple meetings we've had different issues, whether it be zoning issues, our public hearing tonight regarding our access television, as well as the MTA issues. Some things are in our control a little bit, and some things are not in our control, but I just want to thank the citizens who do show up for being civil and professional and abiding by the rules of council, and it does make it a little easier for me up here as well as our other council members, and I just appreciate the input and the professionalism, and always more than welcome come down and state any issues you have, whether it be good or bad, but just nobody else tonight. That's a little late, but thank you again, and with that, Mr. Kwiatkowski.
This will be quick, late evening. I attended both the the fire and police pension meetings, and I want to thank Mr. Evans for his comments, Councilman Evans. I think he saw what I've seen in the last 12 years, that the people on the boards take their obligation very serious. And just as John said, I've sat there and watched them turn down case after case of people applying for enhanced benefits. They take their obligation serious, and I assure you that they too want to make sure that that money is there when they retire. And one of the ways of assuring that is to be very prudent in how they dole out the funds. And what John saw was no anomaly, and I thank him for his comments. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks. Okay,
Thank you, Ms. Beck.
I have no report.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Clem,
Okay, City Council now adjourned at 10:09 p.m. Mr. Winarski, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Evans, Mr. Rankutso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Witherspoon.
it's like